And I am very pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar, in which we are announcing the results of the 2020 Wood Furniture Scorecard, a very exciting occasion. And we're so pleased to have this panel to discuss those results in a conversation that Laura Hodges of Laura Hodges Interiors will lead with David Williams of Williams-Sonoma Group, Dan Chase of re.dwell, Peggy Faribaugh of Vermont Wood Studios, Josh Dorfman of Assembly, and Michael Hirschhorn of Neville, and probably Cisco Pinedo of CISCO Home. We also want to hear from all of you who are in our audience. You can send in your questions and comments via the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. And at the end of our discussion, we will turn to those questions and read them and respond to them. To get started, I am going to invite panelists who are not talking to put themselves on mute, but be sure to take yourself off mute when it's time for you to talk. To get started, I want to be sure everybody knows a little bit about Sustainable Furnishings Council. We are in our 14th year now. Our 15th year, completed 14 years. And we are a group of companies that are involved in residential furnishings in various ways, 400 companies, each of which has made their own public and verifiable commitment to sustainability, to transparency, and to continuous improvement. And we, as an organization, make it our business to help companies realize their own commitment to sustainability. So we provide a lot of guidance, such as with the device of the Wood Furniture Scorecard. We provide guidance and resources and educational programming like this webinar series and like our Green Leaders course. We also provide marketing support. There is a virtual guide to green at High Point Market that is being used there at the show this week, as well as from afar. And members use the member seal in all their marketing and advertising. The Green Leaders course, which is for individuals rather than for companies, is a certificate program. It is worth 6 continuing education units for designers and for LEED accredited professionals. So if you are interested in the sort of thing that we're discussing today, please plan to get further involved with us by having your company join us and by taking the Green Leaders course. Now, y'all know that sustainability is an umbrella term, and it is one wide umbrella. There are many, many issues that fall under it in this general area of sustainability. Forests have a lot to do with a lot of them. And we, in our work, tend to put our efforts where we know that we in the residential furnishings industry can have the largest impact the most immediately. We can have an impact on resource conservation by being careful about our forests. We can have an impact on reducing the pace of global warming by taking better care of our forests. We can reduce other air pollution by taking care of our forests. And we can, when we take care of our forests, we must keep in mind that we also need to be taking care of the people that depend upon those forests. In the case of forests, probably most importantly, the people that live nearest to the forest and their own economies, which is a theme we will probably touch on during the discussion today. Forests are, of course, vital to life on Earth. They serve many purposes besides providing us wood for making furniture. 30% of our water here in the US is cleaned by running through forests. And there are so many animals as well as plants in the forest that we depend on. They're part of our ecosystem. One forest animal hosted a virus until they were driven from their forest environment, and that virus moved to us. Deforestation is a huge threat to biodiversity and for keeping the climate comfortable for humans, maintaining a climate that supports life as we know it. Deforestation releases tremendous amounts of greenhouse gases, and often that occurs in conjunction with illegal logging, which are threatening all the services that our forests provide to us. So we are addressing this problem with our wood furniture scorecard, which we started a few years ago. 2018 was the first year that we assessed retailers. That year we did only the largest retailers in North America. Last year in 2019, we added more, and this year in 2020, despite the pandemic, we've added more companies, so that this year we have assessed nearly 100 companies on their wood sourcing policy. As I said, we as an organization are very interested in providing guidance not only to our members but to the industry at large. And this wood furniture scorecard provides that guidance by showing you how to be a leader in forest stewardship. And the skinny of the way you do that is you avoid bad sources of wood by proactively sourcing good wood. You can ensure that you have that you are doing that when you have a robust wood sourcing policy. That is one that's going to preserve and maintain the health of the entire forest ecosystem. That does involve reforestation efforts, but in those reforestation efforts, it's important that we minimize the use of chemicals because we're interested in maintaining the integrity of the entire forest ecosystem. Why is that important? It keeps even the dirt healthy, and the dirt itself, that soil, has to be fertile to maintain all the life that is in a forest. So as you can hear, a good sourcing policy is going to protect against erosion because everything is going to be growing well. And that in itself is key to maintaining the quality of the waters that are running through forest systems. As I said, our good wood sourcing policy is going to preserve biodiversity. There is so much in a forest system that we do not yet even know what we need it for. You know, it's full of wonderful surprises that can help maintain life on the planet as we know it. And who can best maintain the health of the forest? The communities that are closest to the forest. So your policy should take them into account. Now, as I said, we at Sustainable Furnishings Council are all about continuous improvement. So in the first year when we developed the Wood Furniture Scorecard, the most important thing was have a policy, have a way of implementing it, and please be loud about it. So that basically is, what is your policy? What are the elements of your policy? How are you implementing your policy? And what else are you doing? We have upped the ante continually, and this year we have 31 possible points that these companies could earn in the Wood Furniture Scorecard. 9 of them for having a policy that hits all the areas that make it robust, 14 of them for the way in which that policy is implemented, and an additional 9 for other elements of the company's corporate commitment to sustainability. When a company has earned at least 18 points, we call them a top scoring company. So here we go, y'all, the drum roll. Who earned top score this year? These 13 companies earned top score this year. Mebel Transforming Furniture and Assembly and Williams-Sonoma Group and re.dwell and CISCO Home and Target and IKEA and CounterEv and Crate and Barrel and Plank and Coil and Vermont Wood Studio and the Restore and City Furniture and Circle Furniture. Congratulations to you all. I also want to congratulate those companies that earned a high score by getting almost that many. These companies got 12 to 17 points. Home Furniture, Walmart, RC Willey, Costco, Wayfair, Furnitureland South, Belfort Furniture, La Diff, Tepperman's, Bob's Discount Furniture, Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams, and Sklar Furnishings. And we give an honorable mention to our to these companies: Room and Board, Dutch Crafters, Pallet and Parlor, and ABC Carpet and Home. So congratulations to all these companies. And with this, I am going to turn it over to you, Laura, to begin our discussion with the companies that are joining us on this panel and have earned top score. So we want to be sure that Laura has volume. There we go.
Hello, thank you, Susan. As a designer concerned with sustaining a healthy future, I'm very pleased that SFC developed the Wood Furniture Scorecard, and I'm proud to be an ambassador for the organization. It's great to have this opportunity to talk with all of you who have earned top score status, even in our brief time today. I know we're going to learn a lot about what it took for companies large and small. So we're going to start with some more thorough introductions. Will you please tell us a little bit more about your company? When and why did you develop a wood sourcing policy, and anything else you'd like to add? So we'll go in order of your scores this year. We'll start with Michael Hirschhorn with Mebel.
Thank you, Laura. So I think this is probably the closest I'll ever come to getting an Academy Award. So I really do want to thank the Sustainable Furnishings Council and the National Wildlife Federation, because without the Wood Furniture Scorecard, I truly can say we would not have a wood sourcing policy. We're a very young, just 5 years in incubation and just 2 years in operation company based in Brooklyn. Our entirety of focus is on elevating the gorgeous world of high quality furniture made from reclaimed wood, and also metal, reclaimed metal, and reclaimed plastic. And in doing so, having a scorecard, having the wood sourcing policy, I really think boils down to, one, exactly what Susan said, be loud. It allowed us to fly our flag high and say, this is what we believe in, and find allies and partners like the ones on this webinar. Second, it was very technical. The company that only features furniture made from reclaimed wood, we start kind of high on the scorecard in this system, but allowed us to see that there's actually 10% more. You know, we were at 90% reclaimed or sustainably sourced wood, but there's another 10% there. In our case, it has to do with what are the legs made of? What are the hands made of? What's sometimes the internal architecture of the furniture made from? Or what about having an external advisory panel? Facets of a company that I just simply think we would not have thought about without the wood sourcing policy. And third is all about sales. The policy helps us with our customers because it both helps them. I think later on, Laura, there's a question about challenges. I'll explain this more, but there's some challenges we face in selling that help the scorecard, the policy, help us to overcome and explain our broader mission to customers.
Perfect, thank you. And Josh, will you please tell us a little bit about Simbly and when and why did you start a wood sourcing policy?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thrilled to be here, and again, thank you for including us and recognizing Simbly. Really appreciate it, all of you. Thank you, Laura, for hosting. Simbly, we got started. Also, we're a young, growing company. We started 3 years ago. But we're started by two founders who have been in the sustainable furniture industry going back to about 2003, 2004. I had a furniture company then called Vivavi, which was an eco-friendly furniture company. We were on the first the Inc. Green 50 from Inc. magazine list that came out in 2006 for the work we were doing to advance the green economy. My designer and co-founder Christopher Douglas had a line in the 15 years ago called Material Furniture that was all sustainable. He was on Time Magazine Style and Design 100 for it. It was featured in the Cooper Hewitt National Design Triennial. And we came back together 3 years ago and said, we think the time is right to start a modern, sustainable furniture company, and really hits on all the values that matter to us, and we think will increasingly and are increasingly mattering to consumers. And that is environmental sustainability is core, domestic manufacturing here in the US is core, beautiful design, of course, goes without saying, and attractive price points that make our products accessible, and all of these values embedded into our products accessible as well. And so the way that we do that is we manufacture here just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, in a town called Hendersonville, and we are following that trend of being a direct-to-consumer company. So we are able to eliminate a lot of margin that would be, or upside, pricing that would go into distributorship and wholesale, et cetera, to keep our prices more accessible. So sustainability is core to what we do. Quickly on the scorecard, while I said it's core to what we do, I would echo what Michael said. It helped formalize and helps us formalize our approach to these values that we get, inherently, it's sort of innately. They are who we are and what we're trying to do, but it helps us also express that in the marketplace. And I would just echo what Michael said, find solidarity and, peers and like-minded companies and leaders to help spread that message.
Thank you, Josh. CISCO was on the call. I think, is CISCO on the call still?
I am in the call.
Oh, there you are. Perfect.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
About CISCO Home, please.
Oh dear. I'm sorry, Josh, I missed your picture. Here's the CISCO picture.
Thank you for doing that. I'm having some technical issues with my camera. My name is CISCO Pinedo, and I'm the co-founder of CISCO Home. We're actually celebrating our 30th anniversary. And back in 1990, when me and my wife started the company, one of the goals that we set for ourselves right from the beginning is that we started planting a tree for every piece of furniture that we were making. There was no FSC certification back in those days, and my connection with nature and kind of my background, I always questioned where all this lumber was coming to produce so many houses and so much furniture. And I just felt back in those days that was one way to contribute. Of course, we were making maybe 2 or 3 pieces a week, so that was maybe not a lot of effort, but nevertheless, our intentions was to stay in that path. And it's very satisfying and to know that there's a furniture council now that kind of keeps this scorecard and that we have come a long way as an industry. I believe we were one of the first companies, furniture companies, to use 100% FSC certified wood back in the beginning of FSC certified, and we probably, are being in that journey, continue to question and challenge the industry to bring more materials that are good for our health and good for the environment. So we probably are a company that if you have issues with allergies and if you have issues with your conscience about not polluting our beautiful planet, we can provide that. And I'm a proud furniture designer and maker and retailer that produces everything in LA and in High Point, North Carolina. So I'm one of those crazy domestic people. So thank you for the award, and thank you for making the effort to put us all together and be part of this community of trying to do good for humanity and our health and our environment.
Thank you, Cisco. We're going to move on with David Williams from the Williams-Sonoma Group.
Thank you, Laura. It's an honor to be here and for our company to be recognized as the top for the wood furnishing scorecard. Thank you. Williams-Sonoma Inc. is a U.S.-based retailer of high-quality furniture with a family of brands, including Williams-Sonoma, Williams-Sonoma Home, Pottery Barn Kids and Teen, West Elm, Rejuvenation, and Mark & Graham. We operate in U.S., Puerto Rico, Canada, Australia, and the UK. We have our own manufacturing for upholstered furniture in North Carolina and California. We published our wood procurement policy in 2008, which was really at the beginning of my career with the company. In 2006, we'd already committed to converting all of our catalog paper to FSC certified. And that really created an awareness of the importance of sustainably sourced wood and paper within the company. But as a furniture company, we use a lot of wood, and we wanted to make sure that we extended that into our products as well. So our policy was really the first step in engaging our supply chain for our vision of sustainable wood in our products. And in our policy, we set a preference for FSC certified wood. And we also outlined the types of wood we wanted to avoid. So our policy was really the key in setting expectations with our manufacturing partners. That was the beginning of my journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Next on the list, we have Peggy with Vermont Wood Studios. Congratulations.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Susan, for your leadership. It's a big honor for us at Vermont Wood Studios to be part of this prestigious group, and you provide a lot of inspiration for us. I started our company with really on a mission of forest conservation. I didn't know that we were going to be using furniture as a vehicle to pursue that mission. Furniture came second, and rainforest conservation came first. But I did have a few false starts, tried a nonprofit and some other things, and then I buckled down and looked around in Vermont and said, well, gee, this state is full of furniture makers and beautiful hardwoods right here. These furniture makers have been crafting furniture sustainably for generations. So that's how Vermont Wood Studios started. We make all of our furniture right here in Vermont, and it's all made with sustainably sourced local wood.
Thank you, Peggy. So Dan, will you tell us about re.dwell and about your wood policy, your wood sourcing policy?
Yeah. Thanks again, Laura and Susan, for inviting us here. This adventure started about 10 years ago while deconstructing old homes, working my way through architecture grad school. A friend and I discovered the amazing potential of the materials we were saving. And it was all in an effort just to divert these materials from landfills we saw as they got torn down. I moved back to Michigan about 7, 8 years ago and kept building furniture on the side of architecture work, and it kind of snowballed into a full-time business. And today we build commercial and residential furniture that we install all over the country. And there's just it's just 3 of us. There's probably a smaller end of the businesses in here. Sustainability has always been a priority. It was my focus in school, sustainable design. So it was never really a written policy, but just kind of the core of what we did, trying to divert materials from the landfills and reduce the demand for new lumber. So I have to thank the SFC or FSC for the scorecard that really helps turn our ethos into a written policy that we can better share with our customers.
Awesome. You can hear that there are obviously different, significant differences in the size of your operations, but definitely a shared commitment is the main why. And I, as a designer, definitely appreciate that as well. So thank you. It's very encouraging, I'm sure, for all of our viewers as well. And for our viewers, I think it would be useful to look a little bit more closely at the functionality of that policy that you each have. So we're going to start with the larger companies. David, with Williams-Sonoma, what do you think is useful about having a policy, and what are your most significant challenges with implementing your policy?
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, our policy was really an important step in setting the expectations with the supply chain, but it was really just the beginning. In the early days, we didn't see much traction on our approach to get more sustainably sourced material into our products. Many of our vendors did become FSC certified, but we did struggle to increase the volume of certified products in our assortment. Now, we learned with our suppliers in developing products that we had to lead with sustainability. It's not something that you can bolt on at the end of the process. We also realized that we had to meet our suppliers where they were and work on a stepwise approach to making improvements. We created a good, better, and best framework for wood procurement. And we recognized wood from low-risk sources and reclaimed wood as good and better in that framework. And we also set FSC as the gold standard in our best category. We work with vendors to take that stepwise approach from good to better and better to best. And we committed to whole FSC furniture collections and built them up over time. Our good, better, and best framework allowed us to gain momentum, but in 2015, we set a public-facing goal to achieve 50% responsibly sourced wood in our products by 2021. And this was really the game changer for us. It created the laser focus we needed internally to drive toward that goal. And it showed our supply chain partners that we were serious about sustainability. We just published our 2019 corporate responsibility report this week, and I'm happy to report that we're nearly there at 47%. So we're looking forward to the future.
Fabulous. So CISCO, with CISCO Home, would you mind telling us about your policy and what do you think are the significant challenges you've had with implementation? Do we still have CISCO?
Might be a good idea to.
I'm here, CISCO.
Okay.
Sorry. I put everybody on mute to not be loud. So, you know, at the beginning, I will say it was the hardest because our resources and our suppliers, they just couldn't understand why we wanted to go on this path, particularly in the wood, sourcing the wood. And, you know, we, as David was saying, we tried to work with our vendors, but it got to the point where they were either not taking us serious or they didn't see the need on their business model to make that change. And we were forced to to go to a different supplier that was committed to FSC certification. And at the time, that supplier was a very, very small supplier, but it was very committed to go in this direction. And, even though we're not a huge company, but big enough that we made a difference in his business. So I do think that, challenging, yes, you have to work with your suppliers, but sometimes you just have to challenge them and push the envelope, and also for them to see the opportunity by taking a new path, that it might be painful and the paperwork is not easy and it takes a little bit of energy away from your daily work, but it's good for the greater good and for all of us. So therefore, we were a little bit more pushy, and little by little, when our vendors started realizing that we were serious about this journey, a lot more people jump aboard. So we're happy to announce that we've been able to be part of that movement to help our suppliers to bring products that are much better for our health.
Thank you, CISCO. Peggy, would you tell us about your, well, if you have any challenges, but also what you actually find useful about having a policy?
Sure. I guess what we find most useful about the policy is that our customers are looking for it. Our customers, our furniture is shaker in style or mission in style. It's sort of a simple, elegant style. We're not the only ones who can provide that kind of furniture. So our customers come to us because they admire our mission and they want to be aligned with it. They want their furniture to reflect their values. So that's really the engine for our mission and for our growth. We've grown quite a bit, especially this year. But getting back to our policy, it's just to use local wood. We do use FSC certified wood when it's available, but there are some challenges with that in Vermont. As the others have said, a lot of our suppliers will say to us, look, we source sustainably, it's locally sourced, we've tried FSC certification, it's not a good fit for us. So my challenge is really to nail down the chain of custody for our wood, so that I can show that transparently. And so next year I will be interviewing our makers and visiting the forests where their wood is coming from, and sort of doing a mini chain of custody investigation myself and documenting that with videos. So that's what we'll have to do until we can bring everybody on board with FSC certification.
Thank you, Peggy. And Josh, with Simbly, what do you find is most useful about having a wood policy, and have you had challenges yourself?
There's a couple of things that are useful, and I would just say it kind of extends through our how we work with stakeholders. We use a premium grade plywood. It's called, currently we use Apple Ply, comes from Eugene, Oregon. States Industries makes it. We get the FSC certified version of it. What our policy has enabled us to do is, and we contract, so it's not our own factory, but we contract with a pretty high-end cabinet maker here in Western North Carolina. Their business is growing very quickly. In fact, they've been on the Inc. 5000 for 4 years in a row and have wanted to move in this direction into contract furniture. Us moving in this direction has also pushed them to move in this direction. So we think that's been not just for our business that they do with us, but for their entire business. Looking for FSC certified product, which was the only thing we were going to use from the get-go, is also now we're in the process of taking on a new wood supplier, Columbia Wood Products, which is based here in North Carolina, about 50 miles from our factory, where that EuroPly Plus FSC certified product will be made. So we're able to really localize our whole production even further, and bring this factory along with us, who really is a partner to our business. Just extending that to the marketing side, we are also in a a very well curated, fairly distinguished program with West Elm called their Local Makers Program, which is awesome for us. And so we sell principally through our own website, but we also sell on West Elm's website through this program for makers in America. And that became a pretty easy conversation to have with the folks at West Elm when they saw that we were speaking a similar language around the environment that they speak. They gravitated to our business, again, for our values about domestic manufacturing, good design, environmental sustainability, and a comparable price point. So it's been great in that front. I wouldn't really say there are challenges, but I think that's because we're fortunate to see more product coming into the marketplace that is FSC certified, that meets our specifications for how we want to build.
Thanks, Josh. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about what you found useful in having a policy and if you've had challenges in the past?
So, yeah, we're a young company and we've had no shortage of challenges. And the scorecard, the policy has really been helpful. I'm going to give two stories quickly that it's an interesting contrast. One is that I think we're the only company represented here where we don't make anything. We source from small scale artisan furniture makers. And so our sourcing is not raw material, but it's furniture. And so the policy has been really helpful for us in getting very specific with the furniture makers around the country for whom we source, what our expectation is of them. And it's that whole idea that it codifies something. I think Josh was saying that we sleep, it's invisible to us because it's our the value system we live and breathe. It's really been helpful to specify it and codify it. The other is this, Peggy, you said that Vermont Wood Studios, customers come to you because of your mission. As a young company, 2 years ago, we had the chance to secure a 4,000 square foot showroom almost for free, essentially for free in Manhattan at Union Square. And if any of you know Manhattan, New York City, it's like a primo spot with thousands of people streaming by every day. So suddenly we were in the position of having a showroom where customers weren't coming to us from our mission, customers were coming to us because they were passing by. And we realized that there was this perception gap between those who would come in and think, conflate beautiful new furniture that's made of reuse of materials with used furniture. And so they were constantly wondering, I love your stuff, but it's so expensive. Why are you so much more expensive than other used furniture stores? And to those to whom we could explain the difference, then there was a perception that reclaimed materials are free materials, or at least they're trash, they're low-cost materials. When in fact, I think most of us on this call know they're often more expensive because of the process involved in deconstruction versus demolition, the truth of our sad economy that it's a lot harder to reuse than to clear cut and get fresh supplies. So the policy has been incredibly helpful to us. I can't say we then pull it out and convince doubtful customers, but in giving us the language, giving us as a young company the tools and the structure and the principles through which to explain this to our customer base.
Thank you, Michael. And Dan, same question for you. What have you found useful about having a wood policy, and what are your challenges, or what have been your challenges in the past?
A lot of what, like Michael said, the furniture kind of just came out of our policy almost. It was a way to use up these materials we had saved. So we never really had a policy. It was just kind of the basis of the business, reclaimed materials, and what are we going to do with them? But now having an actual policy and scorecard after meeting and talking with Susan has helped explain that, to customers. They can see the value in the repurposed materials and how it's saving new trees are being cut down, how we're diverting materials from landfills, and the built-in value in that. So our challenge now is kind of going in reverse for the wood we're not sourcing from reclaimed sources, making sure those are FSC certified, and the newer lumber we're using, also making sure those are from sustainable sources. We use mostly local small mills, but I work directly with the guys, harvesting the trees. And so figuring out a way we can document those sources and where they source their lumber.
Great. Thank you, Dan. So now, as we're beginning to take questions from our audience, let's look at the future and reasons for hope. Even though we've lost 46% of the world's forests since humans started making use of the resource, and deforestation in some countries continues to rise, the global rate of deforestation is actually slowing. So the area of forest under protection has also reached roughly 726 million hectares, which is nearly 200 million more than in 1990. So there is hope, but we are still in a desperate situation with the climate crisis. What is your company's next goal in continuous improvement? That's going to be sort of an open question. We have a few minutes left. So if anybody has a specific answer here, but I think you all have really touched on your future goals. But if there's anything that you could tell us briefly, David, we'll just start with you. What are your future goals that you think could contribute?
Well, I mentioned we have a goal to achieve 50% responsibly sourced wood by 2021, next year, and we're expecting to exceed that goal. Right now, we're in the process of developing our next set of goals. We just calculated our total Scope 3 footprint, or the environmental footprint of our supply chain, and we're using that information to set climate targets. It's exciting to see how all of our work in wood, cotton, and other materials is starting to converge, and we can start telling a bigger story around climate. We expect that our work in responsibly sourced wood will help us to meet our new climate carbon reduction goals, but we know that we also can't do this work on our own. We are looking for new partners and industry-wide collaborations to really move the needle on climate change. That's our next focus.
Thank you, David. CISCO, what are your future goals right now with CISCO Home?
Well, we have worked in all the chain of supply and the supply chain, and we feel now that we just need to get our manufacturing closer to our customers. So we made, the conscious decision a few years back to start diversifying our manufacturing and from the West Coast and start producing in the East Coast for all our customers in this coast. So now we are ramping up production in High Point, and that's kind of our the most exciting thing that we have going, that our footprint will get so much better by being closer to our customer. So I would say that that's probably the biggest challenge that we have had since we've been making furniture in Los Angeles for almost 30 years. And now to be able to offer our products and be able to make it on the East Coast is a huge achievement, and looking forward to keep the growth nationally and get the products closer to customers.
Thank you, CISCO. And actually, I am just going to say I appreciate that too, because I'm on the East Coast. So thank you for doing that. Makes it easier for us. Peggy, how about you with Vermont Wood Studios? What are you doing for the future?
Sure. A couple things. One, as I mentioned, we're working on documenting the sourcing of our wood. Two, we're focusing on growth. We've had a lot of growth. We've had an upward trend for quite a number of years, but the more sustainable furniture we can provide, the less demand there is on illegally sourced furniture. And then the third thing we're doing is we're planting trees. So We've already planted 60,000 trees. Next year, we want to bring that number up to 100,000 trees. And we actually plant them ourselves. We work with Forests for Monarchs, which is a small nonprofit in Mexico. And we are replanting areas of Mexican forests that have been illegally deforested in the area where monarch butterflies overwinter. So.
Thanks, Peggy. And Josh, future goals for Assembly?
Broadly on the, I would say across sort of sustainability and how we operate, I mentioned that we are switching our furniture supplier, or our wood supplier rather, so that again further shrinks our footprint. We're excited about that. We ship everything we ship is flat pack, so we ship UPS ground. We have high recycled content in our boxes, about 50%. We'd like to go higher. There's some quality considerations there, but it's something that we are researching if we can get that up towards 100% recycled in our corrugated, just because the furniture is still heavy, even though it ships UPS. We just implemented carbon neutral checkout on our site. So when you check out on Simbly.com, you will see that it says you're through a company called EcoCart. So every order that is placed is instantly carbon neutral, not just in the shipping, but also in the manufacturing. Yeah, you know, we've set a vision for the company to become not just as sustainable as possible, but to become what we would, in our language, call climate positive, meaning that we actually restore more to nature than we take. So we also, in addition to these measures we've implemented, we've partnered with One Tree Planted to plant a tree for every product we sell. So the future is about, for us as a small company, measuring and understanding, you know, the things that David talked about in terms of what is that carbon footprint, to fully understand and scope it against the measures that we take. So that's where we're headed. The one last thing I would say, and I think it's really important, is that you know, we're about to run a promotion that is going to provide a discount to customers who vote, and our platform is about climate change and the importance of voting, especially for those who don't have a voice and can't vote, future generations, right, younger than 18. And you know, this is not my original idea, but it's something I've thought about a lot, is that a lot of companies, public companies, big companies, small companies, are taking steps to green and their own operations become sustainable, but we know that each of us by ourselves can't nearly do enough. And I think it is increasingly, given the challenges we face in terms of the environment, climate change, incumbent upon CEOs and leaders to be outspoken and try to shift their companies to be more aggressive in terms of their public policy stance. That's not really happening yet, and I think that's really important. We still have a lot of companies who are taking great measures internally, but they belong to some associations and trade associations and lobbying groups that may, you know, be lobbying for things that would not fully align or move fast enough. And so that's something that we are going to be more outspoken about. And even as a young company, I would say that, or with a you know, a smaller company that's growing, that does help us stake a claim to some further thought leadership, which is certainly important to Simbly, and I think a very useful thing.
Thank you, Josh. That's absolutely very important. I appreciate that you brought that up. Dan, would you mind telling us a little bit about what your future goals are with re.dwell?
Yeah, so we're definitely looking at better documenting our sources, whether that's the old building that's being taken down or the tree in the city here being harvested. We want to try to better quantify the amount of wood we're actually diverting from landfills, to show that right on our website, the amount of board foot saved and the amount of new trees we've saved from having to be harvested by using reclaimed lumber. We recently received a grant from the city to help install a 50 kilowatt solar array on top of the wood shop, and to help further reduce our carbon footprint. That's about where we're at this year.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. And Michael, briefly, if you wouldn't mind telling us any future goals that you guys have at Mebel? Sorry.
Absolutely. 5 quick goals. A big focus for us is on changing perception of reclaimed furniture. The idea that it's not a trade-off between beauty, high quality, high-end furniture just because it's made from reuse of materials. So I think for us, a number of us talked about changes we've made, mistakes we've made. I'd say one we made early on was to lead only with our beauty, eye-catching furniture, and keep the environmental side behind the scenes. I think we're learning now through this process, through the Wood Furniture Scorecard process, the importance of marketing ourselves, putting it front and center, that it's showing our gorgeous stuff, the furniture, and talking about its environmental and the sourcing that goes behind it. Second, our goal is to grow from 90 to 95% reclaimed or FSC certified wood. I mentioned that 5% for us is what are the handles made of? What are the feet made of? What's the internal architecture of the wood, of the furniture often made of when it's sourced from small scale artisans? Third, we're trying to expand the sophistication of the wood sourcing policy to a broader sustainability policy and articulate that as we redo our website. Fourth would be the enormous amount, we couldn't help but notice as we receive furniture, the crating that goes into it is often as intricate as the furniture itself. And often furniture makers who are building their own crates put as much time and effort, it seems, into the crate. So we're trying whenever possible to shift to blanket wrapped shipping and work in geographies of shipping that allow for blanket wrapped. Or when it's crates are necessary, look at what, especially when we're on the receiving end, look at what we do with the wood that comes in the crate that's sent to us, or save that so that we can reship it out in the very crate that it came to us in after sale. And finally, fifth is trying to apply the mindset, the strategies of the wood sourcing policy to our other arenas in plastic and metal, and develop plastic and metal sourcing policies.
Thank you, Michael. So as a sustainable designer, I just wanted to add that I really personally appreciate everything that you guys are doing. We can only do sustainable design if we have sustainable furniture to source. So thank you. And Susan, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, all of you, for telling us those wonderful stories of what you are doing. I really appreciate knowing your commitments in this detail today. Thank you, Laura, for leading that discussion. We do have some questions, and some of them are follow-on to what y'all have been talking about. So one question is about it came from your comment, Michael, that it often takes more to use a reclaimed material than a new material. So the question is, why? What does it take to reclaim a material? And Dan, since you started your business by tearing down, by reclaiming the materials and buildings that were being torn down in an urban area, I think you should answer first, but I bet Michael and David would have something to say perhaps.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more work going into just turning a piece of lumber that we've taken out of a building into something that we can turn into furniture, from denailing it to, processing it through the planers and everything to make it a nice straight board again, instead of just going to a lumber yard and picking that up off a shelf where we can start working with it right away. There's a couple hours of extra work that goes into every piece just from getting the material prepped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that prepping involves pulling out nails and stuff. Laborious.
Dan, thank you. I would only add that because our particular brand of type of furniture is artisanal, each piece is unique. And so there's no economies of mass production. It's taking advantage of the unique quality, shape, sizes of wood that is reclaimed, and therefore it's individually built pieces, and that's it's a cost factor.
Mm-hmm.
And our furniture maybe has the opposite problem, which is we do want consistency. We have collections that are major collections that need to work together, bedroom sets, for instance, and the reclaimed components, certainly are variable, and there's a lot of time spent finishing those, refinishing the materials to make them consistent. But also there's, you get reclaimed wood, you might get wood that you can't use and is wastage. So there's also higher volumes of materials coming through that need to be evaluated and processed. So it's certainly a challenge to use reclaimed material, but it's also really got a aesthetic value that many of our customers really appreciate.
Cool. I have so another question that has come in is, do you all have programs for designers? So do all of you as panelists have programs for designers? Peggy's nodding her head.
Yes, we do. We have a discount program for designers, and we build to order custom furniture as well as our catalog furniture for designers.
Laura or Susan, I'll answer that in a slightly different way. We are developing a partnership with a New York City-based network called the Black Artists and Designers Guild, which is in terms of a different facet of a program for designers, which is to really increase representation of talented furniture makers of color in the sourcing from the artisans that we draw from. It's not discount focused, it's a representation focused partnership with designers.
That sounds good to me. That's great. That's great.
Williams-Sonoma doesn't have a specific program for designers, but we do make contract grade manufactured furniture, and we do have a line of office furniture specifically developed for contract workspace builders. But the idea, so it sounds like something we should explore.
Yeah. Good.
Susan, CISCO here.
Yeah.
If you allowed me, I would like to plug in Refoundry.
Please do.
Thank you. It's for many of us that grew up in the inner city, we can probably relate to this a lot more. But I co-founded an organization called Refoundry. And if you guys have a chance, check it out, refoundry.org. And it's based in New York and LA. And we actually train and teach people that come from the community of justice how to become makers. And what we do is that we use only reclaimed materials and only found objects that we find in the streets of New York and Los Angeles. And we teach them how to make basic, benches and coffee tables, and then we take them to the flea market and teach them how to sell it directly to the end consumer. And by doing that, we just feel like not only that we're doing good for the planet, but we're doing good for society and giving an opportunity to someone that society has given up on them to feel themselves as a maker. So I'm going to plug in West Elm, which they were one of our first partners in the program, and they gave us the opportunity for our makers to go and show their goods in the Brooklyn store. So thank you for giving me the time to do this.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad to know about that. For all our listeners to know about it. I'm a great fan. We have a comment here. As you saw, we have 13 companies that have earned this top score status. One of them is Crate and Barrel. So Jessica Neal chimes in from Crate and Barrel. We're honored to be part of this list. Much like many of our industry peers on this call, the scorecard has been a sort of North Star for actions we've been actively taking to increase our sustainable assortment, educate our customers, and meet the demands, not just of our customers, but also of the environment. While we've always been dedicated to great design, from the working conditions of our vendor factories to materials, the construction of our products, and ultimately how they are delivered and used, the conversations we are having internally and the new goals we are setting based on the scorecard alone can't be understated. We're happy to be held to a higher industry standard. Personally, I'm excited to see it all come to fruition, from improved reporting to how we plan to share in our stores and on our sites. So that's, so thank you very much for that comment, for including yourself in this. That's really, really useful, because it does show how much companies, large, medium, and small, are sharing in the why of developing new business. We have time for just one more question. So let's see, and I saw it right here. Where do you feel, tell us about the impactful marketing tool for telling the sustainability story. So are y'all going to use the top score seal in all your social media over the coming months so that designers like Laura can easily spot you?
For sure.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Great.
Sounds like a great idea.
Good. And Michael, I can see that you're talking, but I can't hear what you're saying.
I was thanking you for developing the standalone seal that's easy to post on the website and social media.
We are delighted to have the excellent assistance of Andrew Joseph PR, and it was that team that came up with that graphic. So I'm glad, I too think it's beautiful, and I'm glad that y'all will be using it. I'm most of all glad that you all are all such committed companies. So thank you for your involvement in our cause. And with that, we've gone past our hour, so we've got to let y'all all go home. But thank you very much for having been part of this discussion. Thank you, Laura, for leading it. Thank you, Michael and Josh and Peggy and Dan and David and CISCO for being part of the conversation.
Thank you,
No,
Susan.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan, and all.
Good. We will look forward to talking to you again next month. Happy marketing in the meantime.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.